Pranam, Namaste, and welcome to another episode of The Shadow Strategist. We ended the last episode discussing about the 2.5 front, the water wars, who is she, he's a he by the way, what does he aspire for, what is the current conundrum that he's put India into. In this episode, we will try and see it from two perspectives. Number one, we would spend some time understanding why is she behaving the way he is behaving. The second one, what is the 2.5 front that India is confronted with, and how does it see a way out of this 2.5 front? Let's begin with the former. Xi has global aspirations. He sees himself as, for want of a better word, the last Chinese emperor. Like a master strategician, he's gone around playing the chess coins at his disposal in a way to entrench his position very solidly in China. But what is it that he wants for himself? What does he mean when he says he sees himself as the last Chinese emperor? Well, he doesn't articulate as saying it, but it's very apparent for the rest of us who actually study geopolitics and strategy. The game that he's playing is like any other boy with a spoiled upbringing and an aspiration, an unfulfilled aspiration in his early life stages. He's seeing himself as that emperor standing with a cutlass in his hand in a large galley ship, setting sail on the oceans, conquering everything that his eye sees. In the high seas, conquering everything that his eye sees in the high seas. And he wants to live that dream. Nothing right or wrong about it. Every megalomaniac with his means to fulfill his aspirations is on similar lines. The trouble that happens is when they have the means to back the mere megalomania. He seems to have the means to back his megalomania. Where is that coming from, and what is the megalomania? The megalomania is all about subduing nations, free nations around the world, as far as his eye can see or that his mind can manipulate. He sees them as acquisitions, land, people, politicians, leaders that he can subdue, browbeat by hook or crook, worst case, a shot through the temple, to subdue so that he can fulfill his dream of being the last Ming. Be it China, be it Southeast Asia, be it Far East, be it Australia, be it Japan, be it Eastern Europe, be it continental Europe, he wants to browbeat everybody down to subduing themselves to his viewpoint. The strategician that he is, to a great extent he succeeded. He succeeded in bright light, in plain eyesight. The world, which is trying to recover itself from the post-2008 financial meltdown, was desperate for funds, was desperate for someone to invest, was desperate for someone to drive demand in their geographies. China stepped in like a knight, shining knight on a white horse, by buying up companies, by investing funds in all these geographies. Desperate stimulus that this country is required, needed to keep their flock together, to keep their local population together. He was someone who was giving companies in their countries 2x valuation, 3x valuations, buying them up, buying technology up, driving economic impetus, driving demand in their local geographies. Everybody was excited. The so-called free market with all its checks and balances and systems and processes and economists and statisticians, everybody stood by as a spectator, as someone with a less than honorable goal went around playing a game which is lost on all these so-called liberal, intellectual, living beings. Where it got into his head was when Trump came on board. President Trump of the US the hard-nosed businessman that he is, realizes something amiss in this game. The rest of the world is trying to be a sucker. Why would the American economy be suckered by China? So he started demanding a few things. This is my viewpoint. I'm presenting it to you and I'm willing to have a debate with you. Like we have said before, write back to us, challenge us, ask questions, share your comments. I'll be happy to explore this in detail. Nevertheless, my viewpoint, Trump challenged China in its basics to say, who the heck are you to set the economic agenda? I feel defeated. I think you are conceited and I'm going to make you pay for it. We changed the duty regime, changed the access to markets, got them into a equal platform. That unsettled Jinping, Xi Jinping. What she did is use the ultimate weapon of a megalomaniac. Correct, we are calling him a megalomaniac. He did the ultimate thing that any megalomaniac does, right? He unleashed a weapon on the world to subdue it so that while they are busy chasing their tails, trying to get their home flock together, he can pursue his agenda with a degree of ruthlessness which he thought the world hadn't seen, with a strategy which he believes, which is all unique, all powerful, and that only he knows. Welcome, Wuhan virus, December 2019. Far-sighted bugger that he is. 2020 US election, 2020 new government in India, 2020 world economy is at in a flux between the bear market and the bear market. Where does it want to go? How does it bet on? Which technologies do it bet on? 2020, 2019, 2020, one of the things that's happening in China is that a severe load on the banks in China, right? There were strong predictions that the Chinese economy is going to collapse. One of the reasons because it will collapse is because of huge amounts of bad debt, bad financing from completely opaque, non-transparent Chinese financial system. If things had played out without the virus, by March, China would have imploded under a load of bad debt. There's nothing transparent, nothing open in the market about China in the market. Indications are about 40% of the net debt in China are write-offs. They are never going to see the money back. Where is this money gone? You know, I know where all the nasty, less than honorable politicians park their money in. China has no white swan in this whole game. That mess continues. The way out for him from all this mess was to unleash a pandemic on the world. Welcome, Wuhan virus. He unleashes it, not out of mistake, not for no reasons, but he does it with a very strategic intent. This is where a megalomaniac with a nefarious mind is the most dangerous thing that mankind has. He doesn't, as a good communist, the last thing he has any love for his own people. They are completely compromisable pawns on his checkboard. That apart, he believes the rest of the world is just as compromisable. Unleashes the Wuhan virus. What he expects is pandemonium across the world. Every elected government around the world is trying to keep their population, their flock together, trying to figure a way out by which they can limit or arrest the mess that their country is in as an uncontrollable human-engineered virus sweeps across their country. In this mess, he saw his ultimate strategy. That is Xi's strategy. Right. Now we're flipping to the other side. Did the pandemonium work? Did his strategy of trying to subdue the world to a great extent work? Maybe it did. In fact, we're still recovering from it. Large parts of humanity, the 7.5 billion people around the world, is still trying to figure a way out of this mess, man-made mess that was unleashed from Wuhan by Mr. Xi and his equally nefarious, less than human life forms that goes as scientists in China. We're still trying to figure out a way of normal living under the virus. But what this less than honorable human life form called Xi, who is a he, wanted to get done was to break the back of economies around the world so that his dilapidated, bankrupt, almost bankrupt banks can play the last round of rummy in wrapping up economies. This time they were not hunting for companies, they were not hunting for real estate, they were hunting for countries. In his mind, this was a game that he was playing. It didn't work out. We'll just get into as to what didn't work out. Taiwan has a very effective system that scans the Chinese media, social media, or whatever passes as social media or free media in China. They dissect, slice, make sense of all the noise that happens in Chinese media to figure out what is actually happening there. And they read the tea leaves correct. They figured out that there is something big, nefarious, nasty that's coming out from China, and they quickly settled themselves in. Understand one thing, China had 4 or 5 targets very clearly in its mind. They wanted to break Taiwan, they wanted to break South Korea, they wanted to break Japan, they wanted to break India, and they wanted to break the United States of America through the virus so that there is no strategical challenge to their to his mindset of global conquest. But like we said, Taiwan read the tea leaves early. They put in a system that defeated Corona. Even today, Taiwan is amongst the least per capita infections or damage to economy because of the virus. They shut themselves down, had predictive countermeasures in place to an extent where now they have practically isolated themselves away from the virus. So did Japan, so did South Korea. Southeast Asia, not a major player, but they seem to have got their act in order, right? 2 economies handled the large infection from 2 different perspectives. US refused to acknowledge it, has got impacted most from a health perspective, but they managed to cover themselves up from an economic perspective. India managed to protect themselves from a health perspective, but has taken a beating from an economic perspective. Coupled with this was the 2.5 front strategy that China unleashed on India. Their idea was to get to the water sources. Remember, we started by saying, what is the water connect? They wanted to get into the arable lands of India using the virus as a pretext. They assumed that between March and May, when the virus would be at its peak in India, and all politicians in a democratically elected country would be trying and saving their people. There would be large affront from the media about the inadequacies of the current political dispensation in India because of the virus. They anticipated that between March and May there would be mayhem, pandemonium in India, right? And the half of the 2.5 front, which is the so-called left, liberal, left, liberal political system that exists in India, they could manipulate that to open a new front in India. What they didn't anticipate was a complete lockdown that India would get into, right? Did that solve a problem? No, but we bought time that delayed the problem. What India is going through today would have happened within month 1 or month 2 of the pandemic breaking out. Had that happened, where would we have been as a country? Anybody's guess. But we're debating the bottom of the pit, not how high in the pit that we are in. Are we in a good place today? No. But are we down in the dumps? No. We have figured out a method of living, coping, and figuring a way out of this virus. And it's every known macroeconomic index screams to say it is not at the bottom that we find ourselves in. There is an upswing that we are in. Dialing back, Xi's aspiration: use the virus to open multiple fronts across the world. Use that as an opportunity to pursue a picture that he had of himself in his mind of being in this large Chinese, galley ship, going across the high seas, seeking lands that nobody from China has ever been into, conquesting, subduing the local populations, expanding China. His way out of the mess for the Chinese banking system, what he believed, was to expand the land of China, create captive consumer base, and therefore bail out the system, in the bargain establish himself as a Ming that China never had, someone who conquered everything that he sees. That was the lasting legacy that he saw for himself. Got defeated. Flip side, opened up multiple fronts. India being a big one. Why India? God knows. Other than the fact that he doesn't get along with someone strong in India. Why is that other person strong compared to him? Because he dared to look at him in the eye and call his bluff as a bluff. The best way to trap a megalomaniac is to attack his ego. He's bound to make a mistake. In that one mistake that he makes, opens the chessboard up to great geopolitical games. In this, Xi Jinping went into a trap that India set for him. The current political disposition standing up to him forced him to play a gambit which he knows is a losing gambit. He entered or dared to do salami slicing into India for no strategic reasons but from ego, right? In April, he played a game in Galwan. He thought that we will blink and miss it. We blinked, but we didn't miss it. Pushed his luck and tried the game again in Pangong So. While playing in Pangong So, it's a brackish salt water lake. No strategic value, nothing else. He thought he will create a diversion so that he could get into an area where he really wants to get into, right? Which is Arunachal Pradesh. Called his bluff in two fronts. One, beat him black and blue in Pangong So, and also ensured that we didn't strengthen ourselves only in eastern Ladakh, but also in the western Ladakh sector. While he thought he would create a diversion for India in the Pangong So region so that he can have some games played out in Arunachal sector, this is a shadow perspective. You would not read, hear, or find anything on it as to what was the game played out in Arunachal. Ladakh is a diversion, a distraction, right? Understand, in geopolitics, in strategy, especially on this channel, what you see is what is not the story. What you don't see is where the story is played out. Pangong So, like we said, 15,000 foot high ravines where not even a blade of grass grows, which surrounds a huge brackish saltwater lake. It's of no strategic consequence for anybody, right? But if the diversion is there, where is the game? The game is in Arunachal and in Doklam and in Sikkim and in northern Nepal. He wanted to get access to where the fresh, sweet water flows. That is the game. Remember how we ended the last episode? Sweet water is what the next world wars is going to be on. Trust me, it is. There is no sweet water in Pangong So. That's a distraction. That's to fool the media, that's to fool the so-called intelligentsia. The game isn't elsewhere. But India checkmated him very, very effectively. Not only did we checkmate him, we also put a very high price to the game. You mess with India, remember we said this last time, you mess with India, you lose Taiwan, you lose Manchuria, you lose Mongolia, you lose Xinjiang. Basically, you come back to the small tampoon-sized China that you really are pre-51. So that's the game that played out. So that's one front of the 2.5 front war that we said that we will discuss in this episode. We already discussed the half front, the left liberal ecosystem in India funded by China and similarly nasty life forms, including other players less than honorable that we will come to in the rest of the episode today. Let's talk to the other big front, the Pakistan front. Pakistan today is a vassal state to China. They have no locus standi on their own. 5,000-6,000 Pakistani army personnel used to find jobs in Saudi Arabia. Today, they can't even find jobs as ATM guards in Saudi Arabia. They have been found out. They've been found out to be lily-livered, spineless, over-decorated brown pants. There's a reason why they have brown pants, right? So that only the stink distinguishes them and stinks don't get captured in camera. So there's the reason why they have that. But it's a separate story. But the Saudis and the other GCC nationalists, nations have found out what Pakistan is actually about. when they split from India, there's a reason why they split from India and why we are allowed to split from India, right? These are the lily-livered, spineless population within India, didn't have a locus standi of their own, was happy to lean onto something else. Not just us, even their religious masters figured out that these are people who can compromise their mothers. Why would they have any spine of their own? And they got found out. They got beaten black and blue in Yemen, they got beaten black and blue. Any conflict that Pakistan has been into, they have lost. I can't understand, this is an aside, no consequence to the channel. I can't understand what's all those ribbons and medals and painted stuff that they hang on their chest for. I mean, unless they collect soda bottle caps and hang them on their chests. I mean, there's not a single battle anywhere on the planet, right? Even in a UN front that any Pakistani worth his salt has ever won. There may be one or two poor bastards within Pakistan who would have earned this medal. That is probably a first or second generational Hindu converted to Pakistan. Everybody else is a sold, lily-livered, spineless life form. Let's dial back to where the actual front from that side is, from the eastern side, from the western side of India, where the Pakistan side is. We all speak about Jammu and Kashmir in India, right? In our minds, Jammu and Kashmir consists of four things: Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh, POK. Agree? Challenge to you. What is POK? Do you know that? This is how the left liberal ecosystem colors your and my mind. There is nothing known as POK. There is nothing known as Jammu and Kashmir. It's 5 separate states put together in a geographical aggregation. The state, the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir consists of 5 things: Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh, Gilgit, Baltistan, right? There's nothing known as POK. POK, it's like LAC, it's like India-China border. There's nothing called POK. There is Gilgit and Baltistan. Now you understand what we said? What is it that we can do with Tibet? BBU. Bangladesh, BBS, correction. Bangladesh, Bhutan or Sikkim. Similar is the story for Gilgit and Baltistan, right? We can have Gilgit and Baltistan. Actually, they belong to India. That's what the map is all about. They can have exactly like how Ladakh exists as a union territory. Now, so-called intelligent people, they study the 370 and its consequences. Why is Jammu and Kashmir together? Why has Ladakh been kept separate? Smart boys and girls, think. Ladakh has been kept as a union territory so that tomorrow Gilgit and Baltistan can also become union territories. That is geopolitics one-on-one for you. So now understand the 2.5 front war. Gilgit, Baltistan, Ladakh, Jammu on one axis. On this side, on the northern side, it's Ladakh. India doesn't have a border with China. Repeat, India doesn't have a border with China. India has a border with occupied Tibet. Tibet has 3 consequences to itself: be a Bangladesh, be a Bhutan, or be a Sikkim. We'll explain this when we come back next time. Meanwhile, we like your feedback. We have heard a lot about it. We have come back to some of you. We have included some of your feedback into this session. We'll continue doing that. Like us, share us, discuss with people who have thoughts or ideas similar to that you have in your network. Share us, not because we want to be widely known, but we invite viewpoints, we invite counter viewpoints, we invite others from the shadow or the light who have a question that they want to pose to us. Happy to talk back to you. Until next time, Pranam, Namaste.